Jamison, thank you so much for joining us. How are you?
Oh, not a problem, man. Busy. Actually opening up a new project with basketballnews.com, so it's been busy times, and with everything that's going on, it just adds more to the plate, but all is well.
Well, congratulations. I'm glad to hear that.
Very cool, Jameson.
So help me out here. I just made a statement, about, listen, the players are the league. Without the players, there is no basketball. And JD made a statement, without the sponsors, without the owners, there's no basketball either. But can you please explain to everybody listening?
No, I said fan support.
Right.
Yeah.
Without, explaining what you explained to me last night, let's start from square one. Why do you think the players are doing this?
Well, the players are doing this because they have the audience at the moment. They have the platform of, hey, like they're in the playoffs. They have a lot going on. And right now, if something's going on, they have a time to make a stand for something. And they also know that most of the owners in the NBA have a lot of influence in not only the cities that they play in, but also the states and even in the whole country. I mean, we have, owners like Tillman Fertitta, who has a direct line to the president. We have Steve Ballmer, who is the richest sports owner, I believe, in all of sports, if I'm not mistaken, especially in the U.S. So you have different owners who have different influences that they can use to influence things to make a positive change for not just black people, but for everyone. And that's why we're at this point at this time.
JD, does that make sense to you? Because when he explained that to me last night on the phone, it did make sense to me, and I understand it more a lot now than I did.
Are they expected to use their influence to expedite the legal process?
No, not an expedite the legal process. Honestly, it's just to make people aware and say, hey, we need to take a look at this. It's not necessarily expedite anything. It's more like, hey, there's a situation going on. It's still going on. Let's take a deeper, closer look into this. Let's see what we can do, because nothing has been done in the past. Now let's see if we can have our commissioner, who is Adam Silver, who's been with the league for over 30 years in different types of roles. And then we have 30 owners who most of them have more influence than anyone else around, and they can use their influence for good. Now, some owners will, some owners won't, but at least putting that pressure on them and starting a conversation that, let's say, hey, let's see what we can do here. Not saying changing laws overnight, because that doesn't happen. We all know nothing's going to change by the weekend. That just doesn't work. But being able to start that momentum, start that dialogue to where things can hopefully change in the future, so very few people are impacted going forward.
And does that mean, because Jameson, a couple of weeks ago, James Harden, as you know, he wore a mask. It was a Blue Lives Matter mask. He didn't know it was Blue Lives Matter mask. He got a lot of heat on it from Twitter. He basically had to apologize for it and say, hey, I wasn't aware of what this was. So does that change mean, nationwide defunding the police, possible abolishment of the police, or what does that mean? I understand the goal is reform here, but what does that consist of?
No, I just think James Harden made a mistake. I don't think he did that. At the same time, you got to read the room. Twitter is a very volatile place, like social media, rest of social media is, and he learned the hard way. Now, he doesn't have a whole lot of social media, so you're not going to catch him on Twitter going back and forth with people. That's not what that is. So I think a lot of people kind of got carried away with that. And James Harden's not that kind of guy to really make any outlandish, statements either way. So I think that kind of got overblown. When it comes to the police situation, I don't know about defunding the police or abolishing the police. That's probably never going to happen. However, I do believe that the way that police officers are tried when things happen, I think the process of when there's something happen, especially a casualty that happens on the clock, I think that process of, maybe needs to be reviewed.
Agree. I agree. Yeah.
I think that's more of a situation where, hey, some of the laws that police officers and some of their policies need to be looked at and maybe even changed. I think that's more of a situation. But defunding the police and abolishing, come on now, let's all be real. That's not going to happen.
Well, I think, but that's what a lot of people in the United States actually believe that these NBA players are pushing for. And if that's not
the case, I think that what people are assuming that because a lot of people don't know what defund actually means. A lot of people are saying that just to say it. And that's something that people have to be very careful of. There's people who couldn't even give you the definition of defund or even abolish.
Yep.
So I think that it's kind of, you got to be very careful with assuming that people are taking that, because a lot of people don't know what the truth.
And if you appropriate funds, which is what Joe Biden wants to do, he does not want to. If I can finish, please.
To redirect.
Okay, if I can finish, what Joe Biden wants to do is he wants to redirect. Okay, he wants to redirect funds, and he wants to put it in different areas like police training. And I think that's what you're speaking of, and that is not a bad thing in my personal opinion. But I want to talk to you, Jameson, a little bit about, listen, there are some White House officials this morning that are dismissing the significance of the NBA boycotts. This is a historical time for the NBA. This is a historical time for sports. We've never really seen anything like this before. And my understanding is NBA players have brought a list of accountability items to the league. But the good news, I think, to a lot of basketball fans out there is that the playoffs will resume, which you told me you thought would happen last night. So talk to me a little bit about that. The meeting that took place last night, it's my understanding that LeBron James was the first player to walk out of that meeting. What happened in that meeting last night? What have you heard of what happened in the meeting today?
Well, there's meetings. I mean, there's been meetings all night long, but the infamous meeting was last night, ended right before, I guess, midnight their time. Basically, it was guys just basically talking and seeing what can be done where everyone was at. For the most part, most of the players wanted to continue playing. At the same time, they also wanted to create some sort of plan, to figure out what's the next step here. And I think that's the most important part. With that being said, with all the sacrifices that have been done to get to this point, I don't think that you're going to see a stoppage of the whole season, at this point. Just didn't think that was going to be the case. Also, you have players' families for the teams that make it to the second round. Their families are going to be coming into the bubble as early as Monday. So that's going to be a big thing for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, that's absolutely huge. I agree with you because, as you know, being in the bubble for that period of time and not being able to be out and be with your family or friends, that's a difficult situation for anybody, I think. And I'm certainly understand that. But the fact that they are going to be able to have family members in the bubble is huge. It's a big thing. Just knowing that your family is there, there's no question about that. So moving forward now, let's talk a little bit about the ratings. It has always been my opinion that the reason why the NBA ratings are down has little to nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter, patches and jerseys, which, by the way, I have absolutely no problem with. I speak for myself, and I don't think I'm alone when I say that I haven't watched a ton of these NBA games because the quality isn't great. However, I've watched some games recently, like some of these Dallas games, which have been fantastic. It just seems like it's kind of hit or miss. What is your take on where the ratings are at? Why do you think the ratings have been down?
So until the ratings can capture the streams, it's really a very bad process to use because most people have cut the cord. If you take a poll of 10 friends, more than half of them have cut the cord and have gone to some sort of streaming situation.
Right.
That's just how it goes.
Right.
Now, if the ratings are able to include streaming, whether it's legal or illegal, then that's a totally different situation. But until that happens, yes, you're going to see the ratings are down because, hey, people just don't have direct TV anymore. Like, that's just not the case. Also, the way basketball is consumed, not a whole lot of casual fans are going to watch a full 2-hour and 30-minute game. Most people are there for the fourth quarter or the highlights of the game, especially the millennials and the people basically 30 and under. They want to capture the highlights or the high points. The attention span is not that great for younger people. So they're going to view it in a smaller form. They're not going to – the days of watching the game with your dad for 3 hours, that's just not there anymore. That's just not the case. People are going to watch on their phone. They want to see a highlight. They'll tune in on their phone or their tablet. But to sit down and watch a full game, that's just not the case. So the way we have viewed games and entertainment has changed from the old way of 20 years ago to present day, and that's going to continue to change. That's why I'm telling people the next TV deal is going to be a streaming deal. It's not going to be necessarily the same traditional media deal as we've seen in the past.
Yeah. So, Jameson, I've known you a long time. You're a good dude, and you do a great job and very knowledgeable when it comes to the NBA. But now I want to ask you a question, not necessarily Jameson Welsh, the guy who covers basketball. I want to ask you a question, Jameson Welsh, a black man living in this country, and I want to get your thoughts on this. The people out there who are attacking NBA players verbally for the jerseys, for the Black Lives Matter signs, for the protests throughout the country, and I'm not talking about the violent protesters, talking about those throughout the country that are not violent, to all the African Americans out there that I believe are doing this for the right reasons. Can you explain, as a black man living in this country, why this is so important? Why it's important for players to have these names on the backs of their jerseys? Why it's important to have a Black Lives Matter sign in the middle of the court? For people out there that, in my personal opinion, might not understand. Can you explain that as a black man living in America?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I understand what you're asking. And for the players, they have a platform that none of us have. You know, they have a platform they can speak on things that we personally cannot because no one's here to listen to our stories. So the regular person has a regular job and that's fighting day-to-day battles. We don't have that platform. The guys in the NBA, they have the platform. They have the audience. They have different avenues of getting their messages across. So they're speaking for the masses, especially when it comes to experiences with law enforcement. You know, we all have friends of different ethnicities. If you ask people that you know that are black and ask them about their experience with law enforcement, it's not going to be positive ones. And it's nothing that they brought on themselves. It's just how it is, and it's very unfortunate. Me personally, I have an uncle who died via the LAPD chokehold, and he didn't do anything wrong.
Oh,
so, these things that people have to understand, there's a lot of trauma and there's a lot of bad thoughts that come just with law enforcement in general.
Sure.
But in terms of some of the other issues that some of you seen on the jerseys, Andre Iguodala is wearing a jersey called Group Economics, and that's a totally different situation where certain areas of certain schools are funded. Obviously, redlining has been an issue in this country for many, many years. There's just a lot of different things that the average person doesn't know about, and these NBA players have a platform to speak on that.
Sure.
That the average person cannot. So that's what the importance of this whole situation is. My thing is, the thing I want to see from all this is that the players, the owners in the league come together and make some positive change out there. Not just donate money to certain causes because that's the easy way out, but actually make a long-term goal to change some of these policies that have been against a lot of people in general, not just black people, but a lot of people in general. Because whenever there's a wrongful death, the family gets paid out, the cop keeps his job, everything goes on and nothing happened. And that has to change because when you have consequences to your actions, you react different, you think different, you do different. And that needs to be a part of the job because that's a huge problem we have.
Well said. Very well said. I want to ask you to react to one more thing. We got a couple more minutes here. And that would be Mark Short, who is the chief of staff to the Vice President, Mike Pence. He was asked on CNN this morning, your thoughts on these NBA cancellations. Is the administration going to do anything about it? Here's his response, quote, I don't know that you're going to see the administration weigh in on that one way or the other. In my mind, it's absurd. It's silly. He also went on to say, if they want to protest, I don't think we care. That is the person who is, again, the Vice President of the United States Chief of Staff. How does that make you feel when you hear that person make that statement live on CNN this morning?
Well, that's a person that's not directly impacted by anyone missing games. I tell you what, the owners of or I should say all 16 teams that are left, or all 12 or 8 teams, whatever, however many teams are left now, because there's some teams that have been sent home. They care because, they're missing out money whenever the league isn't playing. So he may not care, and there's people like him that may not care. But I tell you what, there's a lot of people who do care, a lot of people who do benefit. The league sponsors who indirectly or directly he's probably tied to in some way, shape, or form. They care because they're losing money whenever there's no NBA games. So it's always a blanket statement without people thinking about the whole picture. And there's a lot of moving parts with any sports league. It's not just the players, the fans, and the owners. It's way, way more deeper than that. And I wish people would take that approach when making statements like that.
I couldn't agree with you more, Jamison. I'm on your side, and I really do appreciate you explaining to me this situation in detail, not only today, but yesterday when we spoke on the phone. I certainly understand it more now, and I think that's the best thing somebody can do. If they really are confused, talk to somebody that maybe knows a little more than you, and you are certainly that person. Jamison, I appreciate you coming on. Thank you so much, and hopefully in a few weeks down the road, we could actually talk some basketball with you. We're happy that the NBA playoffs will be resuming. So that's the good news. And at the same time, we hope that we get some action. No question about it. Jamison, thank you so much for joining us, my man. I really do appreciate you. Thank you.
Not a problem, fellas. Thanks for having me.
Thanks a lot, Jamison.